this the chair that was falling? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, for the hot seat. I think we have a good mix of owners, operators. Deep, of course, is representing a different group of
punching bag.
Punching bags, you know. So, listen, rather than, I mean, we didn't really share to me, we don't normally share anything, but the whole idea of this discussion is to have fun. I think people on this panel are quite capable of speaking up, so if the owners have any questions, and if, you know, we don't necessarily need to ask all the questions, so I'll really leave it to all of you, and if the operators want to give some suggestions, they're most welcome to do so as well. Rattan, you want to take the first one?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. We'll ask some leading questions and again leave it to our co-conspirators here to stoke the controversy from there. And I hope everybody will have a lot of fun.
So, the title is Hot Seat, and where are we on the up cycle, or where are we on the industry cycle? Ajay, where do you think we are currently on the industry cycle?
We're in the beginning of a sweet spot. We've had a couple of years of a good run, and I think there's a few more years to go. The significant difference now is that all our inventories are up on the board. There are no one-to-one contractual things happening. It's all on the net. If somebody's really smart on the other side as a purchaser, he knows what's going on, and there are no real loyalties. So those days of pushing up the RevPAR by 15% or 20% or 25% because of demand on an annual basis are long gone. I think if we can see increases of 7, 8, 9, 10% annually, and if inflation remains at the 5% mark, we as a company would be fairly happy with that scenario, and I think that's what we're looking at.
And are you all sharing that opinion that you will see 5, 7, I don't know, 8% increases in room rates, and is that good enough? I mean, with inflation and everything. Sure.
I'm not seeing 5 to 8% increases in room rates. It's more.
You're
like
seeing a higher number?
Actually lower.
You're not seeing anything.
1 to 3% maybe.
Rajeev, what's going on?
So I have the privilege of seeing India from the inside and the outside, right? Across Asia, I have about 23 countries, and I can tell you India is definitely on the upswing.
Sorry?
I can tell you India is definitely on the upswing, and we think it's a start, exactly like what Ajay said. Last couple of years, we've seen RevPAR growth close to double digit. We think if the elections remain, the outcome is stable, this year could be a year with double digit, and rates are starting to move. Typically in any cycle, you'll see occupancy coming back first, and then you start to move the rates. We saw some movement in rates last year into this year, and I think there's a bigger potential as we move forward.
Sunjae?
Well, I think we are in a very good place now. I think the stability is coming back to the market. However, to be successful in the future, I think the group sitting here, whether it is owners or operators, what will lead us to a great future is our confidence in this market and how we approach it. That's very important. That how we approach the market and the future which is ahead of us, because we have seen the stability coming in. We have also seen that now how the demand and supply kind of is getting stabilized. So it is up to us how we pool in our energies together and say, okay, this is what we want this market to give us back.
Are you passing the buck back to Ashish and Shahid out here and saying it's us? Because I thought you were the management company.
Correct.
They've given you everything to run the hotel, and now you're saying it's us.
It's us. So it is always us, because you can't have two parties. It's the asset. The most important part in the relationship is the asset. If we are fair to the asset, whether it is the owners, whether it is the operator, apply whatever you're doing to the asset, you will never fail. Because if you can progress the asset forward, everybody is happy.
Maybe I should ask Shahid, you're happy with whatever?
No, what I think is, we own a couple of hotels and building another hotel, is that the increase in RevPAR will be micro market or city driven. So you would not see an increase in some some cities, and some cities will see double-digit growth, as as Raj has mentioned. We, in my view, and we're building today the largest hotel in India at Delhi. In our view, in the Delhi market, for example, we see a doubling of rates in the next 5 years. So, looking at a particular market, I subscribe to this view, but on a general basis, I think I think what Ajay says is probably right. You look at a 5, 7, 8% on a pan-India basis increase in RevPAR. On a specific market basis, I think Delhi, Mumbai, to some extent, Goa, we will see increase in rates in the double digit.
Let's jump into the question, and I'll raise it again with Rajeev and you, Sunjay, because you, Manav, have spoken about it on the same podium for 2 years at a stretch. And each year we get the same answer, which is 3 to 4%. We end up with 1.5% and 3.5%. If I was to ask you two, the senior-most brands, give me a thought to say you have a desire to make it 8%, and what's the one thing you would do or tell the audience to do to make sure we get it, because otherwise we ain't getting it.
So, Rattan, to be perfectly honest, a few years ago, we were sitting on the same stage debating the same thing out.
Right.
And I said the same thing then that I'm going to say the same thing today. We are not, unfortunately, being an American company, in a position to be sitting discussing fixing of rates, right?
No. I'm talking about
In
a
terms of
conceptual saying
desire,
what would hospitality do to ensure that everybody believes that there is a method to get to a logical rate increase, because in the 70s in occupancy in most cities, logically that's high time.
Rattan, I'll actually...
If I may butt in, none of us are selling 100 rooms or 1,000 rooms or 2,000 rooms. There's guys like Deep selling 100,000 rooms or 1 million rooms. All of those rooms are sold to customers who are looking at rates every single day and sold at the best possible rate. The customer really doesn't care where he's staying by and large. There's a large, or let's say there's a large number of customers that couldn't care where they're staying as long as they get a good deal. So to get to that higher price point, you wish guys like Deep didn't exist,
Absolutely.
maybe, yeah? But that's ridiculous wishing, because there's a huge funnel that's bringing in business to all those hotels. So I think you have to wish that there are more people traveling and living in hotels. I wish there are double the number of hotels in India that there are today. And there's more a culture of travel, of staying on, of extended stays, etc., for you to get that rate increase.
So Deep, the ball's back on your court.
I was hoping
You're the one responsible to depress the hospitality rates. That's what's you're being
That's what the
accused
owners
of.
are saying.
He's done
That's what
he's done
everybody's
a
saying.
Phenomenal job. I wouldn't take any of that away from him.
I clearly picked up something else. So I can see this glass half full. I don't know what you see out here, but no, guys, I think I'd like to take a very fundamental, almost macroeconomic approach to this. Demand for travel in this country is growing faster than any other country in the world. This is factual. Any other significant large country. It's growing at, I think, 11 or 12%. And I'm not even saying online, so I'm not going online. Online is, by the way, 22%. It's double of that. GDP growth, 7% comfortable. If you believe the government numbers, a little bit higher. But we're talking about outstripping that by 150%. So demand for travel and tourism, 11 to 12% growth. Clearly, supply is not coping up. Ashish and I had a meeting earlier today, and Ashish was saying it's really hard. We all know building out here anew is hard. It takes a lot of time. If SAMHI is saying that, and I'd love to ask the other developers what they're saying, you can renew, you can rejuvenate, you can do all that stuff quickly, but to build anew in India takes a long time. We're not China. So where's the problem? I fundamentally think, A, there's no better country to be doing business in today in the world. Just look around. I mean, look at UK, look at US, it's pretty hard, right? At least for an Indian maybe. And then to be in the travel and tourism industry at this point of time, I think you've got to be blessed. There is no better business to be in. Yes, we are lucky we're in online on top of that. So fundamentally, if we cannot move up RevPAR in this market, then we're doing something wrong. Your latest report, 2.5 million rooms in the country. The same number, I remember 1 year, 2 years ago, we were jamming on this, and we were saying, yeah, maybe there are 1 million rooms. We were undercounting. They haven't come up suddenly, but these rooms have sprung up in some other way. They were guest houses, they've become hotels. Look at the chains who are out here exhibiting. This is India. Today we are talking about regional chains. And there are so many nice, good regional chains and independents in the market. Who is going to win is going to be the top 25, 30%. So the question is, I think, are you good enough to be the top 25, 30% in your hyperlocation? Whatever your hyperlocation is. If you're in South Goa, then that's it. If you're in Varka or you're in Vagator, then you figure that out. It's very convenient to say, oh, all of Goa was down. That's not true. There are guys who did very well in Goa, and I can tell you that because we see a lot of data. We sell 100,000 rooms on most days, and we know exactly where they're going. So I think the question comes down to, actually, it's execution. And if you execute well, there is no better place to make money in this market. I mean, you know, you're here, make the most of it. So
the important question is 6, 7, 8% good enough for the owners? By the way, you know, my whole presentation was focused on bottom lines, and I this morning asked a question to the CEO panel on the bottom lines, and I think Craig came up that I think all the panelists said yes, we should be focused on the flow through, and you know that's what we are there for, and so forth. But the question is, are the flow throughs really there? Are the owners who are putting in hard capital really getting the return?
Can we handle the cycle question first? So I was sitting in Nirupa in one of the rows, and she says, Ashish, doesn't it look like deja vu to you?
Sorry, what did I say?
I said, you know, I and Nirupa were sitting, and she said, doesn't it look like a deja vu? You know, you've been here before. And it got me thinking, it's not just that I've been here before. I've been here before 15 times, and the conversation hasn't changed. 15 years, we've been discussing the same thing, and we've actually seen 2, 3 cycles. Sitting there in the row, I realized this industry and this room has 2 cycles, and both are of hope. One cycle is hope, good times will come, and the second cycle is hope, good times will continue. And there's nothing else that we do actually. Now, when the bad times come, that's when we say boys are separated from men. Is that right? Now, our interpretation is we had long bad times, and we saw a lot of boys and no men. And now there are a lot of boys walking in their shorts into good times. So I think the problems that we face is really more than 3%, 5%. None of us are intelligent enough, including consultants, to really understand where this arrow is going to hit. What we know for sure, we miserably failed in the last bad time. And what we know for sure, that if this is a good time, bad times are coming again. And we just don't want to talk about it because we survive on this perpetual cycle of hope. Good times will come and good times will continue. So I really think...
So what would you advise everybody as a short piece of...
We need men. We don't need boys.
That's conceptual. Let's spin it into real-time context.
I have a question for owners in general, without offending anyone. Why is it in this country that you first build a hotel, whether you find an operator or not, and then start thinking of the return on investment? Is the arithmetic done in 99 cases out of 100 in advance as to what it's going to cost? Are the feasibility done? No. Is there proper arithmetic into what are the rates, what are the market, what is the future, what returns will I get before I build? I want to build a hotel because I want to build a hotel. I know what I'm doing.
Not true. Not everyone is like that.
Not everyone. I'm saying a large number of people.
Because you've got 3 owners who are all nodding their heads.
Let me finish.
Continuously.
You've also got a whole lot of owners here who are now talking return. But I'm saying, did they really go through the numbers carefully? Did they know in advance what it's going to cost them to build that hotel? Did they look at the rates? Did they understand there is going to be some down cycle? Of course there are going to be down cycles in every market. And did they understand their ROI before they built? And even today, if you go to 10 owners and say, this is your ROI, 8 on 10 will still say, I want to build the hotel. There are other reasons to build the hotel.
Sorry, I beg to differ with that. I think as owners, we all look very closely at the numbers. We sometimes, we base our projections and feasibility on the numbers given by operators. And nowhere in the feasibility do operators show a declining ARR. Nowhere do they show a declining AGOP. It's all 5%, 7% increase in ADR. It's all 10% plus increase in F&B. So I don't think the numbers are based on what the operators give us. In some cases, the ADR is double of what they actually show once the hotel is built. So we build as per a certain projection shown to us by the operators, and typically the ADR, what we've seen is at least 30–40% higher than what they're able to deliver once the hotel opens, which is 3 years down the line. So that's why the math doesn't work.
Nirupa, there is a concept in economics called adverse selection. And adverse selection happens when in a transaction there are two parties, and one party has more information and one party has less information. So when an owner is building a hotel, the operator is supposed to have more information, and if you don't believe this, read the preamble to a management contract. It says they're the experts in managing hotels. So clearly, between the two, the operator has more knowledge, the owner has less knowledge. Now there's adverse selection. Now when there is an adverse selection, the two parties have two different processes, screening and signaling. The party which has more information has to signal that this is what I think will be the situation, and the party which has less information has to screen that what he's saying is correct or not. In an interview, the candidate... Screen. Screaming happens later. Screaming happens later. I think there has been a problem in this whole process of adverse selection that operators who are supposed to be signaling correctly have not done so. Owners also had a mistake that the screening has been inappropriate, right? But this adverse selection is the holy grail of owner-operator relationship because there are two parties and those two parties have different set of informations at all times.
But how do you explain owners becoming repeated owners? So why would they make the same mistake again and again and again? There's got to be something else we're missing, right?
No, there's a concept that I would not add value to if that were answer.
No, but it's true, and I'm just pushing the point. By the way, I agree with Ashish's original theory, but I was just chatting. I met Nirupa first time, and I was chatting, and they have 7 hotels, 7 more coming up. I think Shahid has quite a few. You guys have like 20. So what happens then? I mean, why won't you learn from?
No, we have learned. And I think we are at 29 hotels because we are happy with at least 25 of them, right?
And probably you're learning on each one.
It's about a lot of individual owners who actually are the one who's accused of building on ROE, who are the ones who are actually accused of not being probably financially astute enough. I would request the operators to do the job of correct signaling because they are the ones with more information in that process.
I think as a consultant who's involved in a lot of management contract negotiations, I think the biggest difference that we see is there's a big gap between what the development teams have to offer and what the operations teams actually deliver on the ground. There are a lot of promises made to first-time owners, and like I think Nirupa said, they're shown these 5%, 7% increases, or whatever that might be the case, right? And there's no guarantees provided. There's no clause out there which says if we don't give it to you, I mean the performance clauses are really not performance clauses. And that's the problem, right? You're stuck with a marriage for 20 years or 25 years on the average, and there's no way to kind of get out of it. And I think there's a lot of problem, and operations people like what Craig said, or someone else I think on the table said, yeah, we should be guaranteeing it, we should be doing this, but it never happens really on the ground.
Who said guarantee?
Look, we are talking about a very small structured market here. There's a huge market beyond this structure of studies and operators. Let's even leave the operator out of the equation for the moment. There are a lot of hotels built otherwise, and there are other reasons to build hotels. A, you're getting appreciation on the estate and the product over time. B, you're using somebody else's money, using bank's money to create an asset. If you're smart enough at least to pay your debts, in 10 years down the line you have an asset where 40, 50, 60% of it has been paid by somebody else. Those are strong reasons to build a hotel. So let's not talk day-to-day ROIs only. That's not the only reason to build a hotel. If it is, you're in the wrong business.
The other thing I would say, folks, is, 5, 7 years ago, this conversation about operators not giving enough information, all that, I would still sit back and buy it. Today, I don't, because I think the markets have matured. And, we've got partners sitting on the stage that we have very successful hotels with, right? That every single one of the hotels that has been successful made strong business sense. And we continue to do more. The other thing I will tell you is every year as an organization, we operate 120 odd hotels in this country. We bring all our owners together and we put all the numbers on the screen. Be transparent, right? And I have seen those numbers, GOP margins, owner numbers. GOP margins have moved into the early to mid 40s now for the portfolio. right? When you talk about comp portfolio. Today, if you pick the right site and you have a strong business case, it absolutely makes sense to build a great hotel and it has longevity. But you've got to be very thoughtful about it. And I can tell you we have a number of partners who have done very well out of it, right? And then there are others where we could do better. I would never say that there is no space to improve. I think there is tremendous opportunity to improve. Could we go back to the days of 2003 to 2007 or 8? I think those days are behind us. But to what Ajay was saying earlier, and I see it across Asia Pacific, India is one of the star markets for the last year or so, and I think it's got a number of more years to run where we can continue to be close to double-digit, if not double-digit RevPAR growth. We see a lot more projects coming that are mixed-use developments, where ownerships will develop with a diversified portfolio, and it makes perfect sense. So I think some of it is old conversation being rehashed, because I think owners, particularly our partners, are, well thought through, and they've analyzed the business to the T by the time they get into it.
So Deep, I know you have a statement to make, but as a partner that understands this business, as a partner that's announced that maybe that's a business that you would like to get involved into, if there was an observation that you could make as a partner to say, I think you got your act wrong in one piece, both as a customer, partner, and a future, what would that be? And then you can add that piece.
I actually think you asked the question I was going to answer. So I was going to say, let's try to move to solution mode, right? The hotel's built, right? These 100,000 hotels are built. The partnerships are made. No one wants to break a partnership. You want to make the most of it. So what are you going to do now? The fixed cost is there, right? Not for the sake of sounding provocative, but I can tell you the real problem lies in not so great revenue management, pretty much across the board with a lot of folks. And the folks who do a good job are not complaining. And it's as simple as that. You got a fixed cost thing. The ultimate, maybe an even tougher industry is running an airline. But there was one airline which made a ton of money till recently. Indigo was doing great. They probably will make money again. SpiceJet made money. It's way tougher than running a hotel. That's been proven, right? So Warren Buffett and everyone else has said that's the easiest way to go broke, is to pretty much start an airline. But they do a really good job of revenue management. So while we'll bitch and moan and say, oh, airfares are so high, but then we never complain when the airfares are so low, but they're very sensitive to it. It's a science. Now, I think we can do that much better, and there are countries around the world, I think the developed countries do a much better job of revenue management. Vegas, I think, can give a master class in revenue management. Yeah. And, they've got boxes which are 5,000 hotel big, 5,000 room big. They've got boxes which are like crazy, crazy sizes. They know their low weekends. They know what's going on. They're saying, listen, this is fixed. I've already got this. Now I've got to fill up the rooms, and I've got to be smart about it. So whether you're packaging it, what you're adding on, the excursions, the activities, not just plain discounts. But I think if you were more nimble, and I'm just making a generic statement, some of you are, by the way, we do a ton of work with the 3 chains out here, and I think it's going pretty well. That's what I hear. But, and you're very responsive. By the way, you would be probably among the most responsive. But we have seen independents who are so responsive on our platform that that's what it is. It's up to you. It's your thing. We'll sell as many rooms as you let us sell. But if you want to hold back rooms, waiting for Godot, hoping someone's going to walk through that door at 4 p.m. in the evening and take up 20 rooms, it ain't going to happen. Room gone is room gone. I think that's the oldest kind of axiom we've got to not forget. So if revenue management were better besides the rest of the execution, etc. F&B, I think we spoke about it today. It's such a sad story in most hotels. It's such a sad story. It's like instead of being a huge profit center, I think it's really sucking in a lot of the profits. I think we can be much smarter about it. We have the capacity, we built it up. Now what we need to do about it, there are solutions. So I think as an intermediary and really looking at this afar, because I think we would do this much better. Whether I was an operator or a builder, I think I would say, listen, let's put our heads together and do
And the F&B portals are showing the way, just like you guys have shown the way for
look at Lemon Tree.
Exactly.
I mean, Lemon Tree, and the numbers are public, so it's good to see, it's easy to see. I think you guys are very dynamic. You guys are always on the move.
Rattan, you asked about solution, right? And I think Deep has touched a very interesting point. what I would expect, and in a solution mode, right, what I would expect from the large brands, domestic and global, is I don't think they've invested enough capital on an ongoing basis in actually creating a retail excitement. So what's happened is that if you look at big cities, and Raj, you can correct my numbers, Sunjae, you can correct my numbers, I would assume that only 15% business comes from brand.com and OTA. 15-20%, Raj, will that be correct?
In our case, it's actually more than double.
No,
I can show it to you.
Not the GDS, not the GDS.
No, retail. Just pure retail.
India. Right?
Pure
now,
retail.
what happens is that rest of the business is really contracted. It's RFP negotiated. In my opinion, the negotiated business is wholesale. Yeah. Correct? So now what is this industry doing? It's running a branded wholesale business from high street shops. Correct? Typically when you run a wholesale business in Delhi, you'll go to Chavdi Bazaar, right? You will not be in Connaught Place. Here, we are running a branded wholesale business from the most expensive real estate. I think the help that we need from all the brands is you've got to invest money in your brands so that we as owners are not selling a product at wholesale prices on retail cost.
Yeah, well said. Actually, this was again said and answered by another brand in another session that I was attending recently, and the whole piece was, do you shed the low-paying yet high-volume account because you're not rejigging your portfolio in the right manner? And because you get so dependent on that number, almost like a long stay, you miss the beat in 20% less could get you 40% more. It's theory, we've all understood it, but somehow something holds us back in the worry of not being able to fill it up. But if you've got confidence in the product, I would presume,
Raj,
and your own distribution, you'll be able to do that.
On brand marketing? I don't think any brand in India even goes into millions of dollars in brand marketing. They're on hundreds, thousands of dollars in brand marketing, not hotel sales and marketing. Right? You don't create brands like that.
My perspective is we can always do more, but with the scale, we would end up spending almost 10 million US this year globally. In India,
across 30 brands.
Just promoting the brands, and a big part of it is the loyalty, right? And that is very, very powerful because globally we have 125 million members. We are signing 1 million members a month. 50% of our business is coming through the loyalty program. That's the power of the brand. Now, can 10 become 12, 15, 16? I can tell you it wasn't long ago that we were doing maybe 3 or 4.
Raj,
others were doing similar.
Raj, $333,000
You may want to jump in and do the voting.
per brand. 30 brands, $10 million. My number was right. It's $333,000 per brand market.
That's the reason it's in the umbrella, right? Marriott Bonvoy.
So I really think there's a problem there, Manav, you know, brand marketing.
Sorry, there's a couple of more solutions if you're looking at solutions. One is that in the hotel business in the last 10, 20, 30 years, we completely lost the plot on food and beverage, completely and totally. From that comp breakfast, which now offers you everything for the whole day, to just boring offerings overall. So I think what we're going to see more and more and more in hotels, if you're going to survive in the food and beverage, is either you shut down your restaurants and operate a single one and nothing else, or you have smarter offerings to bring back the people into the hotel, rather than go out and eat in more exciting places around you. Secondly, the cookie cutter model of hotel room that we've been so comfortable with all along is got to change to better experiences. And whoever is first on that bandwagon will reap the results faster. We were all for standardization the last 20, 30 years, gone into strong standardization to the T, to every square inch, to every square centimeter. You know, and it's fine sizes of televisions and this and that and everything else. But at the end of the day, I think the customer of tomorrow is looking at something slightly more different than a very standard staid model.
Which is what Mr. Bazai said in the same vein yesterday when he spoke as well. Why don't you lighten this up now? I think this got a little bit hot. You want them to start to vote a bit and we come back to the perspective of the business. Manav?
So we have these little, I guess whatever you want to call them, in front of you. We'd like all of you to hold one of them. And I'm going to ask you, it's got a plus and a kind of a finger down and a finger up, or whatever, whichever way you want to look it up. And I just want your opinions on certain subjects. So I'll ask the questions. You guys decide which one you want to flip up.
Is somebody recording the statistics after their vote? It'd be quite
Sorry,
interesting
it's
if you
right
did
there.
that.
The camera is right behind you.
Okay.
It's actually taking care of your bottom. No, I'm just kidding. Since that's been my favorite phase
Sure,
this whole
since the morning.
last 2 days. Funding for mainstream hotels by banks, is that going to be better or is that looking down?
I think it's the interest
You
rates.
don't have to answer, you just have to show.
I think maybe here,
Yeah.
neither here nor there.
Everyone thinks, I can't see yours. So it's interesting that the management companies are saying mainly it's not going to,
No, we're not.
well, two of them.
I'm saying the interest rates, they can be better. The loan terms can be better.
Hotel net income, is it going to go up or net incomes are going to go up or they're going to go down?
That's a pretty strong one.
Okay, we're done.
Everyone's happy. Hotel values, I guess, consequently will go up.
Yeah.
Is everyone saying they're going to go up?
Hotel value, like real
Hotel
estate
values.
value?
Yeah, hotel values.
Capital value.
Depends on
Capital
the,
values.
Depends on the election.
What time horizon?
Sorry?
What time
Elections.
horizon?
Depends on elections.
Don't think so.
No, is it before next HICSA or next 10 years?
Next HICSA. Next HICSA.
Next 5 years? 6 years?
Okay, let's be realistic. Next 3 years.
Definitely no.
We still have few people who are not happy. Okay. Return per square foot for hotel in the real estate. Is that going to improve returns on a per square foot basis?
Yeah.
Net income, right?
Yeah,
Everyone thinks that will happen. Okay. Development timeline for greenfield hotels. Is that going to shorten or is that going to become better in times to come? So Shahid is the only one who still has to build a big block in Delhi, so he's still worried about it. The rest are all pretty happy with this.
Whoever's happy obviously has great contacts with the government, pre
Right.
and post-election.
Employee compensation. Are salaries going to go up or down, or everyone's happy?
I don't know if going up is happy or not.
For the employee,
The
yes.
owner is sad.
All right. Employee attrition, is that going to go up? Is it a positive or is it going to continue to, will it improve from a point of view? Are you going to be able to retain? Someone brought it up yesterday that attrition in India is around 25% on an average, and that's pretty
Highest
high.
No, Manav, it's not high. I mean, I
25% is not high?
I couldn't get that whole analysis. If somebody says that 25% attrition at a unit level is high, you're going to get some real traditional hotel companies recreated in India, where the waiter has been there for the last 10 years. I couldn't add the mathematics with a very senior bunch of panelists who thought, and your hotel event moderator agreed, that 10% is the targeted attrition. I and Sunjae and Raj will have a problem at 10% attrition at a unit level.
10 is natural. It's like inflation,
Yeah,
right? That 10 is going to happen. People are going to superannuate.
I think 25
The average is around
So
25,
25 is
More than-
nominal. 25
Batu has a very famous chart also,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, I would say 25, 27, 28
So we
is kind of
disagree with
healthy
the
because you're also
regional
weeding
leadership
what
there,
you
you know.
can't sustain in terms of their own ambition. So it's better that what you can't sustain, you don't. Otherwise, you're going to inherit a problem later on.
We
because
disagree with
there's a
hotel
point-
event and regional leaderships on that, you know. We think 10% is very poor, unhealthy attrition.
No, I'm saying it should be. I just put a number out there that 25% is going to go better. Anyway, next.
I mean, just to add that, I
happy
don't
with
think
25.
some
You'll be
the
happy with
brands
25.
say that 25% is the average in India right now. I think it's much higher.
Much higher.
Much
40,
Should it be
35.
lower? Yes, but I think it's much higher than that figure.
Okay.
Negotiating powers for owners in management contracts. Is it going to get better for owners or is it?
Interesting.
What is Raj and
That's for
Sanjay?
you.
Okay, that's it. We need to hear them.
Everyone think owners will get better?
As if you had any less anyway.
It's a
They
hope.
have been.
They're all
you
marketing
guys-
themselves by the
You're all
evening
living in
today.
hope.
It's a hope.
How else would you sign up owners?
Yeah, exactly.
We all live
What
and
about
learn.
bargaining powers of customers? Is that going to get better?
No, I don't think so. If
I
in an increasing
Would
rate
bargaining
regime,
better be a happy state
You
or
better
not so
you
happy?
better not build that hotel.
how will,
What's the
you know,
perspective?
if,
Manav,
if everybody over here is of the view that rates are going to go up, how is the bargaining power going to increase?
It's
It's
a
not.
question-
It's a.
Please remember, it's a question of what
It's
they see
relative.
value in,
It's
right?
relative.
A
So he
25%
might not-
higher rate could be at great value to a customer.
he might not want to buy the same room that
He's got
buying
Oyo
today.
now, yeah.
Shahid, you're forgetting OTAs who are funding a lot of this stuff. So we're funding all of this. So customers are gonna have a
Let's
good
visualize
time.
this from the viewpoint of hoteliers. If bargaining power of the customer comes down, it's a happy state, and that's when you can maybe put a smile. If it's the other way around, you can put a negative saying, hey, that's worrisome for me.
No, but I disagree with the concept. I think
I'm just trying to solve the question.
A question solving.
Monopolies
I'm just
are
doing a question solve. How to identify.
Okay, so market share of OTAs, is that going to go up or is that going to go down? Deep is like...
No, you're saying you'll be unhappy because it will go up, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, for us, it's always been getting customers direct. And Deep knows this. We've been partners for a long time, and we will remain partners for a long time. We see great value in OTAs, but it's also about bringing our customers direct to us.
Sure.
So we've been working very hard at it, and we've been doing quite well. I mean, retail, I can tell you, it wasn't long ago, our retail was less than 20 to what Ashish said. Now, it's approaching double that, right? And that's the power of the brand. You got to focus on it.
Maybe I should have asked,
commission,
OTA commission going up or down? Maybe that should have been the question.
Even before that, I think so. By the way, I'm with Raj. Manav only gets me to Bombay and then I get beaten up. Raj takes me overseas for an owners conference, makes me speak out there, and then I get beaten up out there. So
I'm inviting you to Bali.
That's true.
Where we can get you a massage.
But you know, I think it's the offline pie really where things are moving. Guys, at your latest number, the new denominator that you've defined, I think rightfully, is 2.5 million. I was just seeing the report, 2.5 million rooms. 10%, 11% of rooms are bought online. So there's a big chunk of offline. And I think that's the one that's going to grow. So it's entirely possible that brand.com grows and OTAs grow at the same point of time.
So you weren't there yesterday, Deep, when I said you're going to make a lot of money because the penetration for OTAs or online is only 12% in India compared to 46% in the US.
Yeah.
So you can only go one way, which is go up.
So I think next year at least is very good.
Is investment in luxury hotel segment going to go up or is it going to go down? Everyone, we have 2-3 no's here. Oh, actually, most of them are saying no.
No? I think it will go.
Interesting.
It's too expensive to build
in
a
luxury
hotel.
resorts, it'll go up.
Maybe.
Okay.
But to build an urban hotel, it's expensive when the rates do not commensurate, the current rates don't commensurate the return, and everybody is living in the hope that the rates are going to go up.
So, interestingly, revenue from room service, is that going to go up or is that going to go down?
Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. So then why do you have to have...
Does it really matter? It's kind of a...
It's too small a percentage in the bigger game. The
But
numbers can go up.
conceptually, from a mid-scale perspective, we see it going up.
You see it going up.
May not be the contribution in a percent, but as a thought process,
Does everyone
we see
feel
it going
that,
up.
that room service is actually going to go up? Revenue from room service
Depends
going
on
to
how
go up?
smart you are. In the Indian market, if you're really smart, yes, you can push up the numbers.
It
But
also
is gonna
depends
go up
hotel
across
to
the board? No.
Also limited service, it depends if you're more
Whether you
limited
want to
service.
offer it at all or not. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
and before we, one last question. Use of self-service technology, is that, the use of technology, is that going to go up in hotels in India?
Hope so.
Yeah.
Everyone feels the same way. Okay.
No.
That's good. Rattan, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so let's bring the spotlight back as usual first to Ajay. Maybe related to what the first question was. The unbranded, unorganized sector is getting more formalized. Do you consider it as competition, aka OYO, Airbnb, and what would Sarovar do to mitigate that?
I think I would be particularly stupid if I were not to consider it as competition. The deficiency on our side is that we really don't know that side of the picture so much because it's as you say, unsegmented, unstructured. But for sure, they're taking a lot of customers that would perhaps otherwise be staying with us. Maybe not all of them, but a large percentage of them. What I have to do to make sure that I retain a good percentage of my customer of the whole pie is to offer a better offering, is to distinguish myself in terms of consistency, in terms of training, in terms of quality that I'm offering, and remain up on top there. And I think the experience has to change.
So there's a lot of articles being written about from hospitality and asset owners that Airbnb is good for a segment, but there's a huge segment that feels much safer in a hotel. But hoteliers don't seem to be able to push that thought or the benefit in the customer's face effectively enough. So you actually encourage the Airbnb usage rather than actually pushing, saying, what are the advantages over that prospect that you're not really capitalizing on? So, I mean, kind of links up with what you're saying.
Actually, on Airbnb, if I can chime in, I heard a really mature viewpoint from, I don't know if Alan in the audience? Well, someone from Hilton. So I heard a very mature viewpoint from him, which was that we think the onset of Airbnb and similar are helping seed the market, are helping getting first-time people to actually pay for accommodation in markets like this rather than go stay with someone they know. Yeah. And then eventually they will move up the ladder. And eventually one of our brands will come and take them. So he saw it as a growing the market. And I was making the analogy to when Domino's came into the market out here and everyone said, oh my God, you know, all the small mom and pop stores that are doing our own version of Indian pizza and all are going to die. The reality is that market's growing tenfold after Domino's and Pizza Hut and, you know, McDonald's have come in. So I think it's market creation and more hotels. So, you know, I thought it was a very mature viewpoint. And, I wish you was
I and Raj had a conversation some time back. We feel that the impact of aggregated, disaggregated platforms, you know, OYOs and Airbnb, it'll be more felt in leisure markets because it's so driven by experiences and also the user has more time to discover. You know, a business traveler doesn't have time to discover a hotel's room night every time he travels. He seeks the comfort of a brand. But when you go for your vacation, I do believe that the big box leisure will struggle a lot from the Airbnbs, postcard hotels, which Kapil is doing, because I think they are really more superior in experience. And the big box leisure is all about standing in a queue at the buffet counter for breakfast, right? And that ain't cutting ice with the real high-paying customer anymore, you know.
So yesterday, Raj, my title was Mine is Bigger Than Yours, and in many ways, Marriott had a lot of big things on that list of things. So what are some of the key challenges of being the biggest?
You know, first and foremost, we've got to stay nimble because scale doesn't make you the best. You've got to make sure the ability to make decisions, how grounded you are, and empowering your teams. So if you look at the way we've gone over the last couple of years, is we've spent a lot of time actually getting closer to the market by opening lots of offices in pretty much most markets around Asia Pacific. Because our fear always was, when you become this big, all decisions end up being central. That would be kiss of death. So to me, that was the single biggest thing. So teams are empowered, they run the business, and they're competing in the market day to day. And they're closest to our owners, closest to our customers, and they make the decisions.
Sure. So as a carry forward, and then there'll be many participants from your competition, and the fact that you're the biggest, yet you have to, you know, work the flexibilities. If you were to tweak it the other way around, apart from Marriott brands, who would you think are the best mid-scale and luxury brands operating in the country?
So I have said this for years and continue to say this, the legacy that Indian hospitality chains have created on hospitality has been phenomenal. It's global, globally recognized, and I have the world of regards for Oberoi's, Taj, ITC, Leela, all these brands, because they've created an incredible legacy globally. In luxury space, that's the set that we compete with more so, right? Obviously, on international scale, Hyatt, Hilton, there are some big brands, Intercontinental, but I also see Airbnb as potentially a competitor, right? And I don't know if you've heard, but Marriott has gone into home rental services.
Yes.
We started a test case about a couple of years ago, and literally 6 months after us launching it, Airbnb came up with Airbnb Plus, right? And now we've expanded that. So we think the market is going to continue to grow. That space is going to be billions of dollars worth, some numbers like $100-odd billion, and we think there is considerable opportunity. So when you look across the board, Lemon Tree is a phenomenal competitor in that select service space. It's got the brand, it's got reputation, and there are brands for us that actually compete in that space with Lemon Tree. So I would, from my perspective, we compete with local brands as much as international brands and non-traditional brands like Airbnb.
Sanjeev, how would you pick from that same piece, and what would be different from a Hyatt perspective, or a different perspective to the same question?
So I think it is being relevant, it's being preferred, it is being differentiated. I think there's a lot to learn from everybody who's in the market here. There's a lot to learn from the Indian chains, and I think Indian hospitality, the warmth of it, I think there is a lot to learn from there. And I don't look at it as competition. I think all of us need to grow together, because the market in India is going to be so huge as we go ahead, that if we together learn from each other, whether it is Airbnb, whether it's the other chains or whoever it is, it's about how we can create relevance to India, where India as a country becomes a destination of choice as compared to the others. So for that, we'll have to learn from each other and create those differentiators, not only in India, but from an international perspective as well. And if you look at that, that's what we are focusing on, whether creating differentiators, whether creating experiences, whether doing it by loyalty, whether showing care, how we can form those relationships, those bonds, which actually last much longer than short-term objectives. We are looking at that. It's about being relevant. That's why somebody called us a small, big company, because we might be small in number, but our thought process and the vision of what we want to do is not less to anybody. I would leave it that.
So Deep, as partner customer, if I was to put the same question to you and break it up into two parts. So what would you say is the best luxury brand in India from two perspectives? One is quality and service, and one is best distribution, style and application. And maybe the same answer from a mid upscale.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lose-lose for me. I mean, partners with all.
Customer stroke partner.
So I wanted to say something. Let me see how well I can deflect this. But firstly, I want to answer what two things we can learn from. So I really think we can learn. I've spoken about revenue management. I think there's a lot to learn just from developed markets. And all of you here see that in your other markets, and I think we should be learning that here. The other one I really worry about is training and personnel. So I think we've got a fantastic top tier, but it's very thin. Sure. I think below that, I really worry. In fact, I walk into sometimes big brands and big places, and really I don't know if people know what they're doing, and it's just training, right? It's not like we have shortage of people. I think we have to over-invest in training. And it comes to us culturally. I totally agree with you, and our hospitality is probably second to none, or maybe second to Thailand, I'd like to say. I think Thailand just gets it to another level. But we have to do a lot more harder work out there. So, but coming to that, it's really hard. I mean, I think for leisure, yeah, I think I'm partial to the Oberois when it comes to, I like the fact that they're a homegrown brand. I feel very proud. I think all of you have something from the Oberois, so you shouldn't feel too bad. I think it was the best training ground for luxury hoteliers in the country. And I still feel attached. My friend couple moved on, but I still feel very attached. So I think they get luxury, and with the Vilas is luxury leisure too. But I think what Ritz is bringing in at the high end is pretty stunning. If you see what it can do, they're going to bring that out here. So I think the best of luxury is yet to come here, to be honest. Overseas, you'd have to go to, I think, Mandarin Oriental to get the kind of luxury that you would get in a Vilas property. And maybe Four Seasons. I think that's pretty
from
much
a sales distribution skill, define the same.
Yeah, there I think on the ball guys are actually Indian chains on the ball. Not because Ajay is right here. I think Sarovar, yourself, Lemon Tree, you guys are definitely on the ball, and and I think it comes from the top. So it really has to come from the top. When Ajay has real problem, I'll get a call and we'll talk, and it's fair. I mean, we shouldn't be only, social friends, and similarly with Patu and stuff. So I think that's great, but I do believe the MNC chains are really changing things quite a bit. And it's great to see that. I just wish the unit CEOs, GM, whatever you want to call them, again, a surrogate for revenue management, were more empowered, more bothered. Like, I don't know, I would fix the KRAs very differently if I were today to run one of the chains. And I would say, guys, this is your shop, right? Now, it's not like you can go ahead and do anything within the realms, but yeah, be agile, be nimble, do stuff. And, you know, just fill up firstly rooms at the right point and make sure that you're upselling, make sure you're doing all that. I think somewhere we are very slow, and I'm being very candid, I think we're very slow in reacting to some of that stuff. Maybe we get active at certain times of the year, but I think we need to be active 365 days. It's that kind of business.
So I think Rajeev is in the audience, and I remember something he told me back, I think in 1991, and he had just come back from a course, and he says, you know something, we ain't going to have jobs much longer, because I've learned that all CEOs and general managers of the future are going to come from the revenue management field, so you can start forgetting what you've learned and start to get good at it. And he said this to me in 91, 92. And you know, unfortunately, we still haven't learned.
Maybe there are two roles. I mean, it's ideal to have one CEO. We always say there should be one CEO. Maybe there are two roles. I don't know. But, you know, there's a classic old general manager, which I think in a top-class hotel is still fantastic. Maybe you want to, you know, split up the roles and say, okay, this is front end and that is back end, but we need to work together to make this win. I mean, that's how most companies work. Sure. So maybe that's the answer.
So, Nirupa, I believe most of your hotels are in South India. Any plans on coming closer to, I guess, Delhi?
So we have a hotel planned in GIFT. So elections are really contingent on that. So we're watching closely in GIFT City in Gujarat.
And you were one of the first ones to actually build a service department, which did extremely well. It was, I think, with Mercure, with Accor, and I remember the numbers were really, really high. Are you doing more service departments? And is there really, how much of the gap is there now with the product and hotels?
So I think because India is not as mature a market as, say, a Singapore or in Europe or the US, I think the gap, the lines are very blurred. Because if you go to Singapore and you try to stay in a service department for 3 days, they won't allow you to. They'll say you need to stay a minimum of 30 days. Here, that's not the case. Here, the lines are so blurred that service departments and regular hotels are fighting pretty much for the same business. The length of stay might just be 2-3 days apart. So I think the lines are too blurred, and even with say the Grand Mercure, which started off as service departments and did very well. As the market evolved, we moved that into a regular 5-star hotel because we found that the rates we could get were a little higher. Although the length of stay dropped a bit, but the rates we found could be a little higher with classifying it as a hotel instead of a service department.
So you're focusing more on the hotel side?
More on hotels.
But again, coming back, because you've got residential, you've got some other commercial. What are the returns for you vis-a-vis hotels, commercial, maybe residential? Is there, I mean, you're still building hotels, you're still building residential?
Yeah, residential real estate, obviously, you know, it's typically a 3 to 4 year cycle. So your returns are a lot higher in the mid-20s. I mean, if you look at any of the PE funds looking to invest in real estate, the minimum IRR that they want is 25%. Obviously, that would not apply to hotels and offices. But we do look at retail. We have malls and office buildings and obviously hotels. And the yield that one can expect from an office building is around 8%. And the average return in the hospitality industry is also around 8%. So I'm always surprised why hotels have such a bad name, whereas, you know, offices it's acceptable that I'm okay with a 7.5–8% yield. I think the key there is the volatility in hospitality. On average, I'm saying it's 8%, but it could go as low as 3 or 2%. Or it could go as high as 15%. So there's more volatility. But say in the office space, it's a fixed 8%, say for 9 years. So you have enough time, you know exactly what your cash flows are going to be. Whereas in hospitality, you never know what your cash flows are going to be.
Shahid, do you feel the same way? You've got real estate classes across segment. So,
you know, the way we are looking at real estate, I mean, hospitality is excluding the project in Delhi, which is majority.
Is it on or off right now?
It's on. The project we just contracted with Realty to start. So excluding that hotel, we're doing ideating a couple of hotels in Mumbai, but most of them are part of a larger mixed-use hotel. The hotel is basically you know, throwing a halo over the rest of the development. So we put a very high-end 100–125 room hotel, like, for want of a better word, let's say a Mandarin Oriental, and then the halo of the Mandarin shines onto the rest of the development. So that's our perspective with regards to hotels in cities like Mumbai, because if we consider land cost and the cost of building it, we won't even get to the 4-5%, maybe 3% return. There is no return for building a hotel in a CBD location or a midtown location in Mumbai unless it is coupled with some amount of real estate. On a standalone basis, also the Delhi hotel has a reasonable commercial office space in that, and the office space kind of provides the mitigation to the risk of the larger hotel. So that's the way we look at it. Going forward, building a hotel in a city center location has to have some amount of real estate going with it.
Okay. And how do you see construction price trending?
Cost of construction is going up. It's going up much higher, much faster than
inflation.
Than inflation. First of all, if you look at hotels, and if you look at generally real estate, even the main components of the cost of construction are labor, steel and cement. Steel and cement are commodities. They're linked to international prices. So if the rupee depreciates, those prices go up. Those prices in the end affect the cost of construction. Labor cost is going up by 40-50% year on year in the construction segment, because there's no labor available. Most of the labor is now doing Manrega or stuff like that. Is
construction becoming more efficient though, with techniques and technology?
Maybe
cut down the time.
Maybe, but all that also eventually adds up to the cost. So you want to bring in better shuttering, you want to bring in more plant and machinery. All that eventually adds to the cost. So cost of construction.
Can you squeeze time or no?
You could, but on an absolute basis, the cost of construction is going up significantly. There used to be a time where we used to look at, in Mumbai especially, for a 30-40 story building, 2,500 rupees as a yardstick. Today it's 5,000 rupees, and it's in the last 5-7 years.
So, what is more challenging to deal with for you, brand standards or lender terms? Because you've had dealing with multiple brands and.
I mean, lender terms.
Hotels.
More challenging.
Most of the people over here will want to build a hotel up to a certain standard, and those standards will meet most of the operator requirements. The operators, tend to be fussy about standards, but when you sit with them.
Is it brand standard or double standard, as someone
I think
mentioned?
It's double standards most of the time.
It's double standards.
Most of the time. But lenders, because of the fact that lenders have burned their fingers over the last 6-7 years, there's, the terms that they put on the table, because it's almost take it or leave it. There's nobody funding hotels, and the cost of funding is significantly higher than the return. On a standalone hotel, especially in the metropolitan areas of Mumbai or maybe Delhi, is just not viable. You've got to put in some amount of real estate to make it viable. Okay? And lenders like that. They want to see a mixed-use project rather than just a standalone hotel.
It's going to change tack. There's a question that's been asked in the audience and in all the tea sessions and cigarette sessions outside, and this is a question for both of you, Ashish and Nirupa. There were 2 successful IPOs recently. So 2 parts of the question: would you do a REIT? Would you do an IPO? Same for you. Which one would you choose, and when would you do it?
I think fairly similar exit strategies, but either one works. I think with a REIT, you need to be a little more careful on how the monies are deployed, and maybe it gives you a little more flexibility, but we'd be open for both at this stage. So we are gearing up. Let's see what happens. Let's see how things are. 3 to 5 years, maybe 7.
Okay. Ashish?
I think...
a lot of people are very keen to have that answer from you.
No, so first of all, I think we need to understand that REITs are not about a lot of forecasting. They are all about stable income. So hotel industry needs to be very cautious, because we are underwriting a significant hockey stick And you can't sell that hockey stick to a REIT investor. For God's sake, don't sell it to a REIT investor ever, right? So clearly the industry is not mature enough at this stage for tapping into the REIT, for a REIT listing. I do think that public markets have indicated their interest to participate in the hotel sector. But public and private is not very different, Rattan. I know it's very sexy to be a public company, but you have very similar set of investors. I think what is more important is to build a sustainable business, and on a quarterly basis, annualized basis, look at what's the best way to recapitalize it. I don't think either an IPO or a REIT is an exit. Actually, that's the birth of a company. And anybody who considers these things as exits will eventually have a very poor public company. So I think recapitalization is available both in private markets and in public markets. There's obviously a huge difference in cost of capital, but I think it is a matter of, it's a moment right now when the cost of capital is very, very different. It has to converge. For us, really, I mean, we're more focused on building the business right now. I'm very glad that people other than us are more excited about our IPO. I hope they subscribe.
I've been asked this question by about 80 people.
But none of them will actually put money when we go public. So what happened to your retail subscription and Chalet's retail subscription. No individual wants to put money in hotels. I think there'll be a right moment at some time in the future when, I don't have a plan, so I can't say that.
So Deep, Airbnb invests in OYO. MMT invests in Next Steps, in our business, and which one would be your choice, if at all?
I guess being listed, I obviously can't give you a straight answer.
Sure.
But
that's the problem.
I think our investments, we've made about 10, 12 actually investments. Most of them have been in travel technology. Obviously, the large one was the Go Ibigo Red Bus one, which was defining for us too. It's 2 years old already, so time does fly. But yeah, I think organic is the biggest learning I can tell you from that one. That this whole integration piece is really, really hard. So I know you guys are in the midst of something. It's pretty hard when you do it with large companies. And it's great learning, but it takes the mickey out of you for a while. So I think that 1 year was flat out, and even then, happy to see it was well done eventually, but it's not easy. So big learning. But I couldn't agree more with Ashish on the, just the whole REIT thing. I think it makes tons of sense to do it if you're commercial and there's a little mix of hospitality. But IPO, I think you guys have actually shown the way. I actually think things will change for hotel IPOs in the country, but you need scale. Yeah. So I think the scale is going to be key. And once you have that scale, I think it's possible that you'll see. I'm sure the markets are maturing. Retail investors too are maturing. More education. See, people look for comps. Sure. So now they'll see a comp. So a lot will depend on how you or Chalet do, and then for others that'll become.
So the bigger brands, why won't you therefore flip it and just take over an online company? Rajeev?
Say that
just
again.
Buy them out. You consolidated to battle them out. Why don't you just buy out some other big players on the reverse? Just.
You mean buy out OTAs?
Why not?
We think there's space for all. To continue to grow. The travel market is growing at a phenomenal pace. I can talk about Asia Pacific, right? 61% of the population lives in Asia Pacific. The growth in intra-Asia travel is huge. It was a couple of years ago when 1 billion people crossed borders. That will become 2 billion very soon, right? So when you look at the opportunity and how digitization is happening, I think there is tremendous opportunity across the board. So you can buy out one OTA, but there'll be 10 others, right? And I think there is the space for all of us to coexist and continue to build our businesses. So from our perspective, we would go into, say, home rentals, kind of test that space out and continue to build that space. It wasn't a few years ago when Marriott actually, with a few other hotel companies, invested.
Correct. That's why I asked the question. You did invest
in
an
OTA.
Stopped. Yeah.
Correct. But that's not our core business. It's also about sticking to what's core to you. And we continue to do well at that, and we think there's enough space to coexist with
Ashish is the one.
I think today we see the world in two buckets: tech and non-tech. Tech and traditional. and entrepreneurial, and again traditional. So I've created these buckets for everything. Our own view is we are no more than 3 to 5 years away from convergence of all of this. So you won't have separate tech companies and traditional companies. You won't have startups and old. And that convergence is going to be very interesting, right? Now, let's place a bet. When that convergence happens, will it be more traditional companies who will eventually merge with or take over the new form of businesses? Or will it be the newer businesses who will actually take over traditional businesses, right? And it's anybody's guess. I feel that traditional businesses, with the maturity and the bandwidth of the management, have a really good chance of leading this convergence in future. But I think most of us are very reluctant, we're extremely reluctant. So Raj, I think coexistence is a great public market speech because you can't be very controversial. But the fact is this coexistence is threatened, right? You will see convergence. And whosoever is open for this convergence will eventually, but I don't believe, I'm not, people ask me, you're running a traditional business, don't you want to be in the tech space? And my answer is, I don't think I'm more than 3 years away from this definitions being completely dissipated, I mean, it's not dissimilar to whether whether robots will become like humans first or whether humans will become like robots first, Right.
So to your point, we just take a
twain shall meet.
We just take a different perspective. The fight is who owns the customer, right? It's not about coexistence.
Nobody
right?
owns the customer.
And that's where if you can get that loyalty, we are in the tech space, right? We wouldn't be growing retail if we weren't in the tech space. You have to be brilliant in the tech space. But will we suddenly double our capacity if we buy out an OTA? I think there's a bunch of other OTAs who
okay, we'll let you guys take that a little offline.
Yeah,
but
stop.
Yeah, so I'm going to take over my political role once again because I started the day yesterday with that, and I'm going to go down the line here. But if you had I'm going to punt on it as well. If you had to ask one question from the next Prime Minister, which maybe I'm assuming, rightly or wrongly, it's going to be Mr. Modi again, what would be the one thing you would demand from the government for your sector? Shahid? That's it? How about
So longer repayment periods, better interest rates.
longer repayment periods and
Better interest rates.
better interest rates? Nirupa?
For real estate, some clarity on GST because nobody knows what the hell is going on with GST right now. But if it's hospitality, then possibly lower GST.
GST and infrastructure. Continue to spend on infrastructure and lower the GST.
I think continue the focus which they have finally started looking at our sector seriously, and also help our developers so that
Have
we
they
can.
really started looking? What have they?
So there are like infrastructure, there have been some moving the needle on that in the past few years. If you look at the way they are looking at how the licenses can be, they can look at it more seriously, and the window which used to be pretty lengthy, if that can be looked at, and it is basically helping our developers to get the projects finished in time.
Okay. Deep?
Tourism, truly priority sector. So priority sector lending, everything it's spoken about never happens, which means the right minister, blah, blah, blah. But also, I think free visa is something we desperately need. I mean, it's a huge pain point. Electronic is there, but it has its own complications. You get e-visa and then you can't come back in 90 days. But free visa, I mean, look at Thailand, look at this. If we're not going to do free visa, we will make much more money than we make from visa fees. I think Arjun's right here. He's gone hoarse, screaming for this every time we meet the ministers. And, unfortunately, I don't know, it's one pocket to the other. So, but it's something we need to do if we really want to give tourism the right impetus.
Ashish?
I think urban tourism. We have been selling so much of various circuits, religious circuits, Buddhist circuits. The answer to India's success lies in urban tourism. We need to get people to travel to Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, domestic and international. I also think urban leisure is the holy grail of hotel industry, because as we get more and more tourists to come into Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, you'll really see the real shortage of supply of hotel rooms in India. We have no infrastructure in cities. There is no activities to do. There's no incentive for me to, on a long weekend, come to Mumbai, actually. I think England is England because of London. I think France is France because of Paris. So you've seen gateway cities opening up the tourist destinations. We have miserably failed to recognize that, We want to be cute. We want to talk about Buddhist circus, then X and Y and Z. That's fine. You've got to open the big spots for people to come in,
So Ashish, I'll stick with you.
What would the tagline read? Come to Delhi and don't breathe for a weekend? I mean,
No, so
we're just so far away.
It's a part of that.
It's utopian. Ashish, it's utopian. Our cities, unfortunately, we should go rural tourism. I know where you have your hotels.
Right.
But we want to decongest the cities.
No, I agree. But again, that is also utopian, right? If you don't fix your cities, you will never be able to get volumes in, it's hub and spoke. When 50 million passengers land in Delhi, they will seek different things to do. Somebody will go for a cultural tool, somebody will go for adventure, somebody will go for religion. If you don't pack Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore with hundreds of millions of people, even getting anywhere else is very utopian in my opinion. We need volumes. We need tourism volumes here, for God's sake. We don't need conversation volumes. We need 40, 50 million real tourists staying in hotel rooms.
Yeah, but I think the problem is we have probably the most stunning monument or one of those in Agra, but people don't stay there. Every hotelier says that why we don't do something in the evening and build it around. So I think we've got tons of places to send. Today connectivity is improved, so I would give the government this, but then let's make it holistic.
We'll go to the next question. So
Sorry.
we can. Yeah. So Ashish, I'll sit with you at the other end, and then we'll go down this way because he didn't want to. No, I'm just kidding. Name a current industry trend that may be short-lived. Fad, whatever.
I think, the fact that a lot of Marriott people are joining Hilton is very short-lived.
Marriott people
there's not that many left now, actually,
Sorry?
Actually, I realize that every Marriott people I meet these days carry a Hilton card,
That tells you the
Maybe
power,
the
tells you the
card
power
that
of the
you'll
brand,
print
right?
it.
I think it's a short-term trend. Don't worry. Raj, it's okay. It's another month or so,
Is Raj moving? Is that no? Sorry. Deep.
Since we're utopian discounting, it's short-lived.
It's a very short-lived trend.
Discounting.
I can bet
Utopian,
my money on this.
we have to think utopian. So,
Sanjay.
I'll agree with Deep, I think.
I thought you were saying agreeing with Ashish. You're pointing in that direction.
I already agreed with Ashish. So.
Then you're not going to lose any more people?
what did you say, Raj?
I already agreed with Ashish.
It's okay.
So you're confirming that you're not going to lose any more people to Hilton?
Again, I continue to say that's a power of the brand when people come chasing your talent.
Well, it's still, the problem is the attrition rate looks to be higher than 25% right now.
So, Nirupa knows this because we presented, right? As I said, we put every number up there every year to our owners. Our attrition was 21%.
And how much of that was going to Hilton?
How much?
No, so he said every 1 in 4 he meets. So it's kind of
one
links
in
up
4.
anyways.
Okay. Nirupa?
I don't know. I'll get back to this. I have no idea.
Ajay?
I hope free big breakfast.
Exactly. That was my.
You're saying that the free breakfast should now once again become paid breakfast.
Paid breakfast.
Okay?
Exactly. No freebies.
Right. Last question. We have a minute to go. I'll start with you, Shahid. If you had to change roles with one person on the stage, who would that be?
Of course you.
You're being
Of course you. Who else would I want to be?
Especially after the conference, money has all come in.
Yes.
Ajay?
I'll change with Deep, happily.
You'll change with Deep. Okay. Nirupa?
Probably Rattan. Because he's done with his IPO.
All right. Raj? Hilton?
Probably Ashish. I would change with Ashish.
You'll change it with Ashish. Okay. Sanjay?
I think there is still a lot to do, so I would be myself for some time.
No, you can't.
You can't.
You have to make a choice.
Then I'll go with Rattan since you are taken already, so I'll go the other side.
He's also
I
taken.
was not the participant.
Only for this.
It's
only,
on this.
Only for this.
Okay, Deep?
I'm going to return Ajay this compliment. He's my, by the way, role model for fitness. So I want to be Ajay when I get 2 years older or whatever, a little bit older. So.
Right. Ashish?
Since Raj has vacated his post for me, I'll rather run and take his post and fix my hotels faster,
But then you're not doing this, then you're only doing that.
All right,
I
gentlemen.
love to sit on in those board meetings.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We just...
Yeah.